how to choose the right journal, first you need to look at the aim and scope of the journal. Of course, you need to know the top journals in your field, and also you need to look at your own research, which tier it should be. And also you need to consider the readership of this journal. For example, is it most of the industry people are reading it, or most of the researchers are reading it? So you need to know your target audience, then you need to know the readership of the journal. And also we all need to look at the impact factor of the journal. And also one more factor you need to consider is the speed of the publication. For example, if you want this paper to be published before your graduation, then you definitely need to check the publication history of the papers in this journal, meaning how regularly published. For example, some journals publish 12 issues a year or 4 issues a year. So you need to, know the publication date of your article and see whether it can match with the journal's publication date. Also, the visibility means is this journal indexed in Web of Science, or any database you want it to be indexed, so that it's counted in your university record. And also one more thing you need to find out is some journals do have page charges, means it's not the article processing charge for open access. It's when you publish them, they charge the author page by page or per article. There might be some page charges. So you need to find out this before you submit to this journal. If you don't have the funding for it, or you're not prepared to pay for the page charges, maybe you need to choose a journal that don't charge the page charges or the article charges. Also, I really strongly suggest you talk to your supervisors, the principal investigator of your group, to see which journal that you have a chance to get published in, because I think they have published, they are seniorly published more papers, and they should know which journal you get had a chance. And now actually I just quickly go through, introduce to you some of our own physics journals. Of course, I know not many of you might not be working in the field of physics. I will just quickly go through. This is our high energy and particle field journal. We also have our International Journal of Modern Physics B and Modern Physics Lattice B, which cover the condensed matter physics and statistical physics. We have an impact factor of 1.6 this year for the Modern Physics Lattice B and 1.2 for IJMPB. And we have the computational journal, which is IJMPC. We have our cosmology journal, which is IJMPD. And we have our nuclear physics journal, which publishes 12 issues a year, is IJMPE. So now we talk about how you prepare your manuscript. So the first thing before you start writing your manuscript, the best way to gauge the language expected is to browse the sample copies of the journal. You need to find the journal which you have access to. If you don't have access to that journal, you won't know the style, the writing styles expected for the journal. So I really strongly suggest you choose a journal which you have access to. And also you need to follow the journal format closely. Every journal has its own submission guidelines and the journal template. So do download the journal template. Usually it's put together with the submission guideline. You need to download the template and start working using the journal template. Once you finish your manuscript, you need to check one thing, is to make sure that the copyright clearance has been done. Meaning, if you are quoting using any figures, images from other people's paper, you need to clear the permission first. If this paper you use, or the content you use is from open access content, means the author owns the copyright, you need to approach the author or check the open access license. If it's a non-OA content, means the publisher owns the copyright. Either you need to go to the Copyright Clearance Center, which is a online website. You can just register, and you need to ask for quotation for that particular image or content you want to use, and you will get a quotation. Sometimes it's free, sometimes you need to pay. It depends. Or the content you want to use is not available on Copyright Clearance Center, then you need to approach the publisher. So either the publisher's copyright department will handle this, or the journal's editorial team will handle this. It really depends on which publishing house you're talking about. And also, after you have cleared your copyright issues, you need to choose your article type. So is it a long, extensive research article or a short communication letters? Usually we say papers, if it's double column, anything longer than 5 pages, we can consider it as a long research article. But if it's a single column, anything longer than 10 pages usually can be a research paper other than a communication letters. And one more thing I would like to highlight to you is sometimes you can see in the journal, there are special issues, organized by the guest editors. All these special issues, some are, closed, means it's by invitations only. No one else can submit unless, you are approached by the guest editor. And sometimes they do have a call for paper session on the journal webpage, which encourage you to submit to this special issue. In this case, if you feel your article fits in the scope of the special issue, you can definitely submit. But before you submit, you need to check out a few things. First of all, a lot of special issues are, expected to be published at a certain time, because sometimes the special issue is meant for someone's birthday, a prominent scientist's birthday, or for institutions launch, there are many cases that we have special issue for special occasion. So there might be a targeted publication date of this special issue. But if you are rushing to publish your article as soon as possible, you need to check whether the special issue publication date can meet with your expectation. Otherwise, I feel you should, just submit the article as a regular article. But there are some good points about, special issues, because the special issue usually is the same topic, means every paper in this special issue focus on a topic, so that whoever interested in this topic will log in and want to read the paper. So people in the field might have higher chance of notice your paper by publishing in a special issue. So there's pros and cons. You need to balance, whether you want to get it published early or you want to get your paper noticed by publishing together with people in the field, especially when the journal covers a wide scope. For example, our journal have condensed matter physics, and it's a very broad topic. If you want people who working on spintronics to look at your paper, then maybe you should publish in that special issue. Now let's talk about how to write your article. So we need to start on the title, but I do highly recommend everyone finalize your title after you complete your manuscript, but we still need to start from the title, but we can always revise later on. So the title should capture the concisely and accurately the content of the paper with fewest possible words, preferably less than 15 words. So the shorter the title, the easier for people to pay attention to. When your title is too long, too wordy, no one will bother to read, and people will think why this author don't have the ability to tell people in concise way what your paper is about. So clear, concise, informative to attract readers' attention is very important. Identify the main issue of the paper and try not to contain abbreviations unless it's well known. For example, it's either DNA, CMOS, or LHC, etc. Those acronyms that everyone in the field knows. Otherwise, don't contain abbreviations. Now we look at the abstract. Actually, abstract must provide readers with a brief and succinct summary of the content of the paper, i.e. the research problem, the objectives, hypothesis or framework, or appropriate methodology, main findings, results, accurately in a couple of sentences. Actually, one of the things I would like to highlight here is when we send. Nowadays, almost all the journal are using either editorial manager or ScholarOne to handle the peer review. So when we send your manuscript to the reviewers, potential reviewers, they will only be able to see your titles and their abstract. So by reading your titles and abstract, the reviewer will decide whether they want to review your manuscript. So the abstract is extremely important in terms of helping the reviewers to decide earlier, do they want to review this paper? So if you want the peer review to be done as soon as possible, you need to have a good abstract, attractive one enough that to get the reviewers' attention. And also the readers, once it's published, the readers very often make the decision whether to read your paper based on the abstract. So, conveying why your working is interesting or important or novel in the abstract. Also, there are some tips like you need to state the research problem clearly and explain why it is interesting and important. For instance, the problem may arise from conflicting views about an issue. Then state why its solution is important. So do not refer to figures, tables, except in rare cases. It should ideally not contain references. Means in your abstract, it should stand alone. Don't refer to anything that the reviewers or the readers won't see. In our majority of the journal, the title and the abstract of the article are free to view. So people won't be able to see the content of your journal if they are not the subscriber of our journal. But they can always, choose to just to read this article by paying to the journal's website. But if you're referring to something that they can't see, no one will understand what you're talking about. So try not to refer to anything that, outside of your abstract. And I really just strongly recommend everyone to rewrite your abstract after you complete your paper, because, when you first start, maybe once you finish your manuscript, you may have a better understanding of what your paper is about. So definitely try to revise the abstract once it's, the whole manuscript is done. And now let's talk about introduction. So we need to, in the introduction, we need to describe the background or reviews related to the work done previously, the objectives and motivation for your work, method used, and main results, etc. So the length of the introduction shouldn't be more than 10% of the whole article, or we can say it should be less than 2 pages. So unless it's a long review article, we don't think you should have an introduction longer than 2 pages. And also you should avoid unnecessary background and critical statements. Do not exaggerate or understate the significance of your results. And at the end of your introduction, give a brief outline of the organization of your paper according to the sections. So after introduction, we are coming to the method. So cover what was done and why and how it was done. State why a given method was chosen. So for example, you are using this method, you definitely need to tell the reader why you choose this method. And do not over-explain common scientific procedures. So if it's something everyone in the field should know, don't overstate. Don't spend too much time explaining the things that everyone should already understand. And strike a balance between theory and empirical work or applications. So it's important to give reasons for the choice of a particular method or procedure or formulation. So for example, there are 3 or 4 methods available in the field, and you choose a particular one, you need to tell people why you are choosing this one. And now when you're presenting your results, we need to describe the outcomes of the results, emphasis on the importance of the new findings, avoid non-significant results, and indicate range of validity. Use tables, graphs to present data. Do not duplicate data in tables that are adequately presented in graphs. Clear graphs are essential. Do not overload with data. So when you're presenting your data, definitely try to, you need to deliver the message how you present the data is very important. So use a good figure or table can definitely help you to deliver the message clearer. So clear, unbiased, convincing, free from interpretations and opinions, presented in an objective way. So you also need to compare results with other similar experiments if available. Now we talk about the discussion. So the discussion is to analyze and interpret the result. You can favor one explanation of your results, but also mention alternative explanations. If the findings are only supportive or suggestive rather than decisive, do not overstate the importance of your results. Be concise and informative. Keep speculation to a minimum and justify your citation. And about your summary and conclusions, usually we suggest you have 2 paragraphs for your conclusion. First paragraph should include a brief and concise summary, and the second paragraph is the important conclusion and a possible third to identify future research directions that can arise from the work. So please try to avoid the phrases like more research is needed or similar sentences. So we need to be as specific as possible on what additional original work has to be carried out and how it will improve the reported findings. Okay, so things we should avoid in your manuscript: incomplete data, or the conclusions not supported by the data. It's a lot of people are making these mistakes. Is the data presented and your conclusion doesn't match. So from your data, actually it doesn't really necessarily lead to your conclusion. So you need to make sure that there's no logic loophole in your whole manuscript. And unsubstantiated claims or poor quality figures, please definitely try to provide highest possible resolution of figures. Very blurred figures does prevent people from reading your papers. And incomplete and outdated references. A lot of the times when people look at your paper, they also check the reference list. If they notice you never said anything published in the past 10 years, we will feel you are not updated. You never keep up with the current research. So definitely you need to have the most updated reference and a complete list of reference. So before you finish your manuscript, you need to check, does it contain a novel, clear, useful, and interesting message? Is it presented in a logical manner? Does it communicate efficiently using simple words and short sentences so that reviewers or editors can grasp the scientific significance easily? However, no amount of wonderful writing can cover up for lack of content. So ultimately, the results are the most important thing. A lot of publishers can help you to improve the writing in the copy editing stage, but no one can help you to improve the content. And also, there's a way to tell how original your research is. We have old problems and new problems. We have old solution and new solutions. So when you're solving a new problem with a new solution, then definitely it's the best research paper would want. However, it's usually not the case. And if you are solving an old problem with an old solution, this is most likely most of the time we are publishing around this June, then you need to tell the reader, tell the reviewer, tell the editor why your paper worth reading. What have you done to improve the current existing problems or the solutions, So you need to tell everyone that what you have done to make your paper stand out. Now we come to the submission of your journal. Do you need a cover letter? It's not necessarily, but it's good to have. So this is a sample cover letter which you can use. Actually, the sentence that all the editors wanted to see is the last sentences in the first paragraph. Here, the material presented in manuscript is original and has not been submitted for publication elsewhere. This is the sentence we want to see. We want to make sure this is an original article, that you are not, submitting the same paper everywhere. This is all we want to know, and it has to be true. You don't, you shouldn't. We are trying to submit one paper to 2 journals. Definitely, this is something you'll be blacklisted by both. And submission platforms. So most journals today, as I mentioned, take electronic submissions only. And the common platforms we are using are Editorial Manager or ScholarOne. These are the 2 major manuscript submission platforms that all the journals are using. And these platforms record exactly who submitted what at what time. So everything will be recorded. That's how we track, when you're submitting one manuscript to 2 journals, somehow you'll be find out. I mean, maybe not upon the submission, but at later stage. So, and also actually nowadays, both Editorial Manager and the ScholarOne are linked with Crossref and ORCID. So the Crossref is to check the similarity of your paper, means the plagiarism is the similarity of your paper with all the online available published material. So if you are copying from your own published paper, it will be noticed. If you are copying from anyone else, as long as the material is available online, Crossref will find out. And also the LPID is for the author's identification, because nowadays, especially people, if your name, there are many people have the same name, how to differentiate? We are using OKID to tell who is who. So now a lot of journals have made it compulsory that when you're submitting the journal, you need to provide your OKID, so that all your publications will be listed under your name. And now I would like to talk about how the journals how the manuscripts are handled once you submit it. So now you're submitting a journal. Corresponding author submits a paper, and the paper through the editor manager or the ScholarOne, the editor-in-chief or the handling editor will receive a notification, tell them, oh, we receive a new submission, you need to take a look. So the managing editor or the editor-in-chief will read the manuscript, then he has to make a decision at the moment. If it's out of scope or the quality is poor, or for whatever reason he wants to remove it, he will straight away, reject this paper, send it back to the author. Or he feel, okay, this paper is within our aim scope and it reads okay, the quality seems okay, your paper will be sent to review. So the managing editor will pass this paper to one of the handling editors. The handling editors are usually the editor board members or the assistant of the managing editor. And once the handling editor receives this manuscript, they have to take a closer look at the manuscript and identify potential reviewers for the manuscript. So usually they will invite several reviewers to comment on the manuscript. And once the reviewer has submitted the report to the handling editor, then the handling editor need to read the comments and make a decision. So the decision he can make is either revise, accept, or reject based on the reviewer's recommendation. So if he wants to revise your manuscript, the comment from the reviewer will be sent to you together with the original manuscript. Then you need to go through one more round of submission until the reviewers are satisfied with the manuscript. Then we can go to acceptance. If here straight away the reviewer suggests to reject the paper and the handling editor agrees, the paper will be rejected accordingly. And if it's a strict acceptance, then the handling editor will make the decision, and he will say, okay, I want to make this paper can be accepted. Then the editor-in-chief or the managing editor is the final one who click the button to inform the author about the acceptance or the rejection. So now, once your paper either is only when your paper is either accepted or rejected, it's considered we finished the whole peer review process. So when you're submitting your manuscript to a journal, most of the time, the journal requires the author to recommend for potential referees. So please suggest a reviewer who you know your field and may appreciate or be interested in your results. And also try to suggest potential reviewers who are not the collaborators of all the authors or have no conflict of interest with any authors of the manuscript. And some journals may select reference based on your recommendations. Some do the opposite. Actually, it really depends on who you recommend. When you really have a good recommendation, most of the editor will take that into consideration. But if they notice you're recommending someone from your group, someone from your collaborator, who are your collaborators, the journal office, the journal editor has to look for reviewers on their own. So also at the same time, some journals allow you to opt to blind certain reviewers or editors. Means you can request that your manuscript do not be reviewed by someone who you may not see eye to eye with your work. But if it happens that someone is the managing editor or the editor-in-chief of the journal, I suggest you move to another journal. So, the managing editor basically handles every single submission of the journal. There's no way you can avoid that person. And there are some, I think during your preparation or revision of your manuscript that I would like to mention. You are asked to revise before your paper because your paper contains publishable findings. Do not blow it. So do not argue with the referees. When disagreeing with certain comment, you can explain your reasons politely and patiently. So explain why and justify your omission. If the referee demands additional studies which are time-consuming to carry out or beyond the scope of the paper, so do not respond in an argumentative tone. So we can thank the referee for useful suggestions which can form the basis for future study or forthcoming paper. When submitting a revision, so you need to respect the submission deadline and include a copy of referee's report, a copy of response to the referee's point-to-point response preferred, a copy of revised manuscript, especially for your revised manuscript. It's better to highlight the changes you made based on the original submission so that it's much easier for the reviewers to check what you have changed. So you need to highlight the part you have made changes to. And here are the reasons for rejection. First, straight away, if it's out of scope, we will reject the submission. If it's poorly prepared, it will be rejected. If it's insufficient new results, it will be rejected. Also, the scientific quality is substandard, unsubstantiated assumptions, or improper conclusion. Even if you have a very good, experiment and discussion, and you have a wrong conclusion, your paper will be rejected. So also your paper will be rejected if you have suspected misconduct like plagiarism or the fabrication of results. Some common mistakes that some young researchers might make is submissions of papers which are clearly out of scope. The managing editor will feel you don't know the journal well enough and you don't know your research field well enough by submitting a paper to the wrong journal. So try not to do that. That does have a very bad impact on yourself. And failure to format the journal according to the guidelines of author means you didn't follow the journal's submission guideline and didn't follow the journal's style files. Each journal have their own style file. And that's why we were saying, in the beginning, you should decide which journal to submit to and start preparing your journal using the journal style form. And also, if the English is very bad, it's very difficult to understand, it will be rejected. And if you didn't respond to the reviewer point to point, meaning, for example, the reviewer gave 5 or 6 comment, and you only respond to point 1, point 2, then it will be rejected. And worst scenario is it's a resummation of rejected manuscript without proper revision. For example, there are many cases, your paper are rejected by this journal. Then you're submitting it to another journal. It happens, you get the same reviewer and they have seen exactly the same paper, which they rejected previously. Then the reviewer will definitely write a message to the managing editor of the journal, and the paper will be rejected and may be blacklisted by the managing editor. So how to avoid the rejection? First of all, you need to be self-critical and check through carefully, get the feedbacks from cliques, and revise your manuscript several times before submission. And most important, do not plagiarize. Self-plagiarism is included. For example, nowadays, everyone is using Crossref or all the, similarity checking system. You can't hide it. As long as you're copying, even from your own paper, it's not acceptable. I know sometimes the two people are using the same experiment setup or the same methodology. So you want to save some time and just copy and paste. No, you have to revise, have to rephrase your methodology. Although it's the same thing, but you need to word it differently. Otherwise, you will be rejected. And you need to submit to a journal that your paper will stand a fair chance to be considered. Meaning, most of the time, how do we tell whether your article will be accepted by a journal is you check with your seniors, you check with your supervisor. Your group have published with certain journals before, your paper will have a higher chance of getting published in that same journal. And also, it's very important that you submit your paper only to one journal at a time. Once, nowadays, if both journals are using editor manager, at certain stage, you will be the publishing house will be notified at a certain stage that this same paper has been submitting to 2 journals, and you will be blacklisted by both journals and maybe both publishers, which is the worst scenario because many publisher has a lot of journals under their arm. So, and also do not resubmit your paper to another journal without revising according to the feedback. You may get the same reviewers. This is something we mentioned before. If a paper is rejected more than 3 times, it means the paper has major defect, which requires overhaul before resubmission. So, and here are some online resources. It's like the publishing ethic guidelines and reliable OA journals that you can submit to. And also, what do you do if it still get rejected? Don't give up, keep trying. Sometimes, we heard the stories that Nobel laureates paper get rejected because their methodology or their theory is too new. No one else, understand it at the time when they finished the manuscript. So it was rejected. But don't give up. Also, you need to address referee's comment, try to fix them, and revise your paper before submitting to another journal. Alternatively, you could appeal to the editor explaining why you feel your work did not receive a fair review and request for another opinion. But try to be polite. It won't help you if your letter is read in a very rude manner. So, writing a rebuttal letter to the editor rarely reverses the decision. So no matter how angry you are or you feel you are wronged, don't get angry. Don't try to be objective and try to be polite when you're approaching the editor or managing editor of the journal. And now, if your paper are finally accepted, what's next? This is the production SOP. So a lot of people feel, once a paper is accepted, it should get published within days, which is not usually the case. And here I'm going to explain to you why it took the publishers that long to finish the production procedure. Okay, so now once the paper are accepted, the desk editor means the editors from the publishing house, not the journal's editorial board members, will be notified. So either it's a desk editor or a journal publishing assistant will get an email notification saying that, oh, this paper has been accepted, please send it to production. Then this person will upload the manuscript online. Most of the publishing house nowadays do everything online for processing. And our copy editor will receive a notification and start editing your manuscript. Then we have another editorial assistant will check for journal style for consistency. Means after the copy editor copy edit the manuscript, we have an extra pair of eye to check the journal style for. Means this person will not check the content, but he will check the style, whether the style meets the requirement of the journal. And also, once it's done, the manuscript was sent to the typesetters who, change the whole format based on copy editor and EA's comment. Then now the proofs are ready and will be sent to the desk editor or journal publishing assistant, and they will send the proof to the author. And if the author have corrections, we will go through one more round of corrections, sometimes 2 rounds. Then the paper can, once it's done, the paper are ready for publication, but it doesn't mean it get published online immediately. So the paper, all the source files together with the manuscript is sent to the electronic EPUB department for conversion and upload. So whatever, for example, you are using Microsoft Word or LaTeX to prepare a manuscript. When we put your papers online, it won't be the format. So we need our EPUB department to make a conversion and upload your file to the website. And once it's done, papers are collected into an issue and sent to print. So for example, your paper can be published online. In the journal website, there's a section called online published, but it's not in the issue. So only when your journal are published in the issue of the journal, it can be indexed in the Web of Science. So if it's always in the publish online section, the Web of Science or other, indexing database won't index your paper. You will have a DOI and everything, but it's not indexed in Web of Science. So only when the paper is put into an issue, then it is properly indexed by Web of Science. But also there might be a slightly delay because sometimes Web of Science got lots of published content per day. So it will take time to do the indexing, but once it's published online, the Web of Science will get the notification, then they will start to do the indexing as and when they are ready. And now your paper has been published. So once it's published, we need to think about how to get more people to read the article and how to get your people to article to be cited. Actually, we noticed, if most of the OA paper have 30 to 40% of higher chance of being cited than a non-OA paper. The reasoning is very simple, because open access can be read by anyone for free, because open access means if you publish your article under the open access model means it's not behind the paywall. A lot of times, if you choose to publish in certain journal, the readers, if they never subscribe to that journal, they don't have access to your article. They can't read it. But if it's an open access article, everyone can read it. So the chances of your paper being read and cited get much higher. And well, open access is free for the readers, but it's not free for the author because publishing costs money and someone has to pay for it. If not the readers to pay, then the author have to pay. So authors or their funding agency pay an article processing charge to get their paper free available to everyone. In some journals, the article processing charge are also sponsored by the societies or the institutions supporting the journal. So there are different cases, but majority of the time, the article processing charge will be paid by the author or their funding agency or their home institution. So our company, World Scientific, offers an open access option, and actually almost all our journal, be it a good OA journal or hybrid journal, you can choose to publish your article under the open access model. And our article processing charge on average is $2,200 per article, regardless the length of the article. So let's say your article is very long, we charge this. If it's short, we still charge the same. So there's no difference between long article or short article. And where you can get the money to pay for the open access. So a lot of university may have fundings for the open access, or when your supervisors or the principal investigator apply research funding for the project, they usually will include a portion for publication or publishing fees. Also, the university may have an agreement with publishers. For example, our company have an agreement with some Birmingham University or some other university that we have a special rate for their staff when they want to publish with us under open access. And our open access policy for journals, you can click for more information. I think the presentation today will be shared to you. So later on, you can check out all these details yourself. And these are our, gold OA journals, means every article published in this journal are open access. And we have many other journals are hybrid, means, we have 140 journals, majority of them are hybrid, means, we publish under subscription model. But if you choose to publish under open access model, it's fine. You just need to pay the article processing charge. And what else can you do to increase the visibility of your paper? I think definitely nowadays it's on social media, be it Instagram, Facebook, WeChat, anything you talk about it. And nowadays we notice that short video attract more attention because people don't have the patience to read. And whenever you mention your article, it should definitely include the DOI so that people can cite your paper. Yeah, there are some frequently asked questions. Can I submit a manuscript in Microsoft Word file? Yes. And do I know the average days needed in peer review or the full process from submission to publication? And this info, if some journals will on their website, they will tell you, the average time for peer review is how long. If it's not available there, you can just estimate from the history dates, means, you browse through the papers in that journal, see the date. Usually the journal will include the submission date, acceptance date, and the publication date. From there, you can see how long it takes to do the peer review, how long it takes to do the production. You can have an idea of the timeline. And can I cite my accepted paper before it's officially published on the journal? It can be cited by using the article's DOI. So once your article are accepted, when we start the production, a DOI number will be assigned to your article. So you can, ask the journal editor, I want to cite this accepted paper in my next article. Can you let me know the DOI number? Usually, most of the time, they will give you the DOI number. Then you can, use DOI number as for the citation. And what supplementary material can be posted with my article on the journal's website? Yes, there are times, when the author wants to provide picture files, video clips, computing programs files, etc. And the editor feels it's a good article to promote. We can have all this, put together with your journal article so that, attract more attention from the readers. Also, can I share my published article PDF file or posted it on the internet? So here, we have a link for author's right. I'm not sure about other subjects. For physics, we have this preprint called archive. So most of the time, a lot of physics authors put their articles preprint means, before the production. So it's the accepted version of your article, put it on the internet, put it on archive. Most of the time, the publisher is agreeable. But if you want to put the published version, means the version that we have gone through the whole production, we have done the copy editing and typesetting for you, then you need to check with your journal editor. How should I request permission to reuse material published in my own article? So we have a link here for our own publishing permission guidelines. For other publishing house, most of the time you can check their permission guidelines. It will be available on their website. For a lot of publishing house do give the author free reuse permission. We also, most of the time, we don't charge our author to use material from their own papers. And thank you. Hope you enjoy writing your paper as much we enjoy serving you. Yeah.